in a crude laboratory in the basement of his home.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today we have a really interesting interview with John Mason, who is the founder, president, CEO of Chenango Brokers, a wholesaler here in New York that operates in 24 different states. And I've known of Chenango Brokers for as long as I've been writing and doing business in New York as an insurance agent, so 10, 15 years. But just recently, I started working with them because they have a pretty wide set of commercial auto carriers, and commercial auto, as everyone knows, is difficult right now. And in New York, it's particularly difficult as different carriers have started just literally non-renewing all their commercial auto business and getting out of the state. And I needed someone to help me because the commercial auto is tough. And as we talk about commercial auto, particularly as we get into the episode, part of it is commercial auto has a ton of losses and it can really destroy your loss ratio. And even though there's good premium, having all that premium on the books with a carrier where you're maybe trying to build up a strong loss ratio and contingency book can be an issue. And not that I'll say that was my primary motivation for going to them. I simply needed access and markets that would write the business. It's a thoughtful conversation. It's something to think about as you're crafting your book and trying to become the most profitable organization that you can and finding solid partners to help you write more business. And John is just a very dynamic guy. I love the way he thinks about the business. He's been around for a long time. He's done a lot of really interesting things. And I just think you're going to enjoy this. I know I enjoyed it, and I think you're going to love it. But before we get to John, I want to give a big shout out. I want to talk about one of our sponsors, one of the sponsors that makes this show possible, and that's Advisor Evolved. Advisor Evolved is the only choice for insurance websites. If you're using someone else's insurance website, just know that you have made a tactical decision. You've made a conscious decision to use a lesser product. Just know that. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person or that you don't care about your business. And there's a way that you can fix it. Go to advisorevolved.com, advisorevolved.com today. Connect with Chris and his team. Get yourself an Advisor Evolved website. Get quote vids, get all the other gangster products that come with an Advisor Evolved website today. All right, let's get on to John. So, all right, so where I want to start is actually maybe towards the end, but I just find I just love this. I just love this sentence. So I was looking over the breakdown of your book, Follow the Money, which is, so for those listening at home, I had obviously heard your name and we both operate in New York and I knew about Chenango, but we've never spoken until recently. And then I've been talking to Chenango a little bit for your specialty commercial auto because and I'm sure a lot of agents struggle with just how rapidly it changes and having the right companies and all that. And long story short, in part of talking to you, I think Jamie or you, someone sent me a copy of your book. I read it. I loved it. Follow the Money is the name of the book. You can get on Amazon for everyone who's listening. We'll have it linked up in the show notes. But in the description, you say, over the last 30 years, this street smart entrepreneur has used unique marketing and management ideas to march into New York City and buy 5 brokerages, expand his own brokerage network into 20 states while relaxing from his home in the Caribbean. And I just was like, if that is not this rainbowed picture of, the American dream / where everyone is trying to get to, I just thought that was like this perfectly written sentence. It was like, okay, so you got to that spot. How the hell did that happen?
It was a lot of work. A lot of work. You got to work smart. You got to work hard. I think the key to it is, Ryan, I learned long ago that I'm not an insurance agent. I'm an entrepreneur and a marketer who happens to be in the greatest business in the world. That would be the insurance agent and brokerage business. And, I started with this tiny little agency in this little town of about 1,200 people here in the middle of upstate New York that I since COVID, I am very grateful to be living here in the middle of nowhere. It's been fantastic. But I go back and forth to my place in St. Croix where I work every day, and I've been working virtually for many years. So this was nothing new to us, but it can be done. And agents need to remember that, when they get a license in a state, I don't care if it's New York or Kansas, they're licensed to do business anywhere that license says they can do business in that state. They're not just bounded by their own hometowns, and you have to remember that.
That to me is one of the ideas that I am so glad is being hopefully completely driven out of the industry with COVID, because not that operating in your hometown and being a force in your hometown is a bad thing. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that a lot of agents, and I even find myself sometimes being caught in this, like we become very, we get tunnel vision, with a 50-mile radius around wherever the pin drops on the map versus thinking bigger about what's possible in our state. And then, I mean, with some of the stuff that the National Producer Network has now or whatever it is, you can get licensed in other states for $150. Now you're not licensed. It takes 10 minutes.
I'm licensed in 24 states, and we're sitting here in this little town, in the middle of nowhere, and we're writing small and medium-sized commercial auto in 24 states, coast to coast.
Yeah, so
along with many other products, personal and commercial, but we're doing it from here.
Yeah, and I think that's the idea. I love that people want to have roots in their hometown. I think that's a good thing, and I think insurance agencies for a long time have been staples of the local community. But I think unfortunately, because of how easy it is for directs, captives, insurtechs, other independent agents who are more digitally or just marketing focused to move into that town and create a presence, it's too small. You can't protect the longevity of your business by staying so narrowly focused on such a small geographic region.
Absolutely. And I was known for many years as a personal lines guy. And I wrote, before I became a wholesaler, I wrote personal lines. I didn't just write a house and car here and there. I was writing home and auto everywhere in New York and Pennsylvania. My office is actually right on the New York-Pennsylvania line. And back in those days, I would use those penny saver newspapers. Today we have social media. It makes it even easier. And you can literally do business with people and for personal lines, or you want to pick a niche in small commercial lines and then partner with a wholesaler such as myself who's got some interesting products. But you can literally do this in any state that you've got a license in. It's very easy to do, and you can perpetuate yourself and your income quite well if you use some of the other strategies that I've talked about, to nurture and retain that book of business.
Yeah. So tell me just a little bit for people who may be unfamiliar. You have kind of a unique story just in terms of, I don't know, you say right in your bio, like you didn't grow up with a silver spoon in your mouth. Like, I think that means a lot of things to a lot of different people, but like, just talk to me a little bit about how, if you're not an insurance agent, which I would agree, I feel very similar that I have to fight myself to get into insurance agent mode, but I feel very comfortable in agency owner mode, if that makes sense. And
absolutely.
So it feels, I think that's one of the things that we initially connected on, is that mindset. But I'd love for you to talk through how you got into that, how you realized, because I think there's a lot of agents that fight this idea. They feel like they should be an insurance agent, but their mind is telling them they think more like an owner or an entrepreneur. Right.
It definitely is a mindset change, Ryan. In fact, that's what's key to it. you have to make a decision one day, and I did. I had gone to a seminar, a weekend-long seminar 20 years ago, and came home and decided I'm going to lock myself away for about a week and start designing the systems and procedures in order for myself to be delegated away. So one of the first things that I did is I just started delegating, and I'd write down anything that I did somebody else could do. And it's amazing the things that you can get off of your plate. And I got it to the point where, and I realize people listening to this come from various size agencies. So if you're in a 1 or 2 man show, it's going to be different. Maybe you can get yourself somebody part-time, a couple hours a day or a week or whatever to assist you. But, we were a larger agency at that time because we were both retail and we had the wholesale. Now we're strictly wholesale. But I was able to hire a personal assistant and delegated things. And we have used team leaders within the agency and an operations manager and an accounting manager. And the key to it is I think the agency principal has got to gear himself then so that he is the marketer. There's a huge difference between marketing and selling. The marketing is putting the bait on the hook and the selling is reeling it in. And I'm a marketer. And, you're marketing every day. And I don't care if it's whether you're marketing in a case of an agent to attract new clients. It's also to attract and retain employees, recognition in the community, retain your business. Everything you're doing is always marketing.
Yeah. I was talking to, I don't know if you're familiar with the name Nicholas Ayers, but he's an agency owner and he,
Sure.
Yeah. So I was talking to him and I use the CRM system that I use in my agency he's a partner in. So we were talking and he asked me, something about the agency. And I just looked at him and I said, man, I said, at my core, all I really am is a hype man. That's really what I'm the best at, is like getting people hyped up about shit. Like that's where I can add the most value to an organization, where you said and wrote this down. What do I do that someone else could do? What are all those things?
Right.
And basically I'd say everything that I do, my skills are duplicatable outside of hype man, and take that word for whatever you want it to be. But the idea, I think I so believe in what you're saying. Like, this makes so much sense to me. And I feel like it's why so many agents struggle with this sense of almost like disconnect with their agency, because they want to do one thing.
You hit it.
Yeah.
But you just hit it. You say hype man or pitch man. That's kind of what it is. And I don't want to get political, but there are certainly things that could be said in the current environment about knowing how to connect with your audience. So if you're familiar with some of the marketing that I do, probably the highest paid thing that I do in the course of a day is when I'm writing copy. I understand the things that I can put into a sentence to appeal to my reader. And the reason for the first sentence is to get the reader to read the second sentence, and so on. So, the agent's job is to bring customers into that agency, just like the restaurant owner's job is to bring patrons into his restaurant, or in these times, the sidewalk. But your job is to put gas in that engine and then have the systems and procedures in place to service and retain it.
So why do you think?
And actually, I should have said acquire, service, and retain it, because you're not going to make any money if you're sitting there with a pad of applications or your iPad and writing renters apps yourself.
Yes, and so why do you think? Where do you think why do you think it doesn't feel like, I'm going to position this a different way. It doesn't feel like most agencies make this leap or make it all the way. This is a huge bottleneck, I think, for a lot of agencies. Was this what we're talking about right here? So what do you think it was that allowed you to make this jump? What did you see? What did you hear? What did you feel, or whatever, that allowed you to make this leap and then kind of take your business to a whole nother level?
very hungry entrepreneur, and I have been since I was a child. I've been working hard since I was about 12. And I grew up, as I said, very poor. Watched my parents not struggle, but we were lower middle class, and they worked very hard, and they did very well for themselves. They didn't become wealthy, but they worked hard, and I saw that, and I saw opportunity, and I've always had drive, and I just did it. And I think that anybody can do it. You be not afraid. Just You've got to follow your dream. You've got to set your goals, and what gets written down gets done. So I would write down daily tasks that I wanted to do, and the daily tasks that I wanted to do were all related to my bigger picture goals, my maybe 90-day or 6-month goals. And I'm big on lists and punch lists, and I just work at that list, which gets added to and scratched off until I get things done. And again, write it down, it'll get done. And just be a fierce delegator, hire quality people that you can trust, and get the job done.
Yeah. What are, so right now, a lot of people, per this discussion, there's a huge debate that goes on between hiring people, we'll call them, kind of the standard American worker versus, say, Puerto Rican or a Filipino VA. There's also VAs in India, a lot of other countries. So say an outside, a non-US based virtual assistant versus, someone who's going to sit in an office. Like, obviously we're
right. I think what you're trying to say, Ryan, is what are the differences in the functions that a virtual assistant, regardless of where they're from, it can perform versus somebody in an office setting.
Yeah, and where do you stand on the topic? Where do you see advantages, disadvantages, and what would you do?
Sure. There are certainly a lot of functions that an agency can outsource to virtual assistants. You have to be very careful, first of all, of what the security is on the other end of that equation. It's a huge exposure. So I just want to talk from kind of a ways that you could utilize them as a standpoint, and I probably utilize them differently as a wholesaler than someone running an agency would. But they can easily handle doing quoting. They can handle all sorts of back-end things, your downloads from your carriers, getting things assigned. In our case, they do some personal lines data inputting for us. They handle getting things that are not downloaded into the management system, which thank God isn't a lot. There's a lot of accounting transitions that they can handle. But for somebody to be able to give advice to a consumer, they need to be licensed. So the idea, I would think, would be to do what I did in all the years that I ran a very successful agency, is to get your CSRs licensed, train your clients that either John or Susie CSR can help them. They have the exact same license that you do. They're here to advise, and they'll help you. And then John or Susie CSR has the virtual assistant supporting them to perform functions behind the scenes. And that seems to work quite well for a lot of agencies.
Yeah, I think, I think you're right on it. And the reason I asked that question is this idea of freeing yourself up to do the things that allow you to grow and to grow the business. This is a huge hang up. It's a very technical hang up, right? So the high level idea that you outlined, I think everyone listening would agree with, but then that next step,
there's a fine line, Ryan.
Yeah.
You also have to understand, how to do a lot of the key functions in your business. I wouldn't be it all above telling you that at 9 o'clock last night, I was entering a 40 vehicle fleet in California, trying to, help get something out that needs to be done quick. So know how to run your business, be able to pitch in when you need to. But for the most part, I spend most of my time trying to grow it.
Yeah.
And other people who have been loyal team members here, most of them for around 20 years, know what to do. They're trained and they handle what they need to do.
So you're running a successful, growing retail agency. You sit down, you're starting to map out what your future looks like, and you decide to add wholesale elements, and just so I may have the timeline a little wrong, you decide to push into wholesale more. Talk through that decision, because I'll say I know how to use wholesalers, but I don't know a lot about the wholesaling business.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I get asked that a few times a year. First of all, there's a lot of agents who have the misconception that being a wholesaler is the land of milk and honey. And believe me, it's not. Unless you're of the mega size, a lot of times you're working on standard agency commissions, just like retail agencies get. And so you're working on a much smaller margin. How I happened to do it, I had a small wholesaler come to me looking to have me produce business for him. I said, I have more markets than you do. Why don't I partner with your agents? And very soon we had a marketing relationship going. And very soon after that, I wound up buying Chenango. It was owned by a small insurance company at that time. And but the other thing you have to be really careful of is your systems and procedures. First of all, not every company is going to let you do it. And almost every company, if they find out you're doing it behind their back, will have some sort of a disciplinary type of discussion with you. I've seen companies terminate agents for it. Your E&O carrier is certainly going to want to be aware of it. I certainly wouldn't recommend trying to sneak it beyond them. Eligibility for E&O can certainly be impacted by the percentage of business that an agency brokers. And you've got to have the systems and procedures set up. For many years, we were both retailers and wholesalers, and we are strictly wholesalers at this point and moving forward. But we had the systems and procedures in place at the time, and we were running, two different kinds of businesses. And believe me, they are much different procedures. Sometimes agents will say, well, why do you do that? Well, I have E&O insurance too. And we need to make sure that we do things so that the carriers, most importantly, the clients, that everybody in the transaction is protected. It's a little more difficult to set up a wholesale brokerage than people think.
Yeah, I believe that.
Probably wasn't the answer everybody wanted to hear, but it's something that there's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it.
What was it about the wholesale business that you liked? Like, why did you eventually go full wholesale?
And when I got into it, to just kind of shed light on the whole thing, I saw it as a way to keep my, very rapidly growing small town agency that I had 20 years ago further expanding. Why did I decide to get out of it? I'll be quite honest. Why did I decide to get out of the retail agencies and stick with the wholesale? We began selling off the retail agencies 6 years ago. We sold the operations down in New York City. And then 4 years ago, we sold the upstate New York agencies and retained strictly Chenango. And we had done quite well as wholesalers several years ago. And we have some unique markets that others don't have. I had I'll be quite candid, 3.5 years ago, I took care of a very personal problem. I'm an alcoholic. Many people listening to this have been at insurance industry events with me and seen what a jackass I can be when I am. And I got my life back 3.5 years ago. Fortunately, I think that God sits on the shoulder of every drunk. I had good people who helped me keep things going. while I was in the happy house, and I came out and got things running again, and we've been growing it and growing it, and we've now turned it into a national wholesaler. We've gone pretty quickly from, not quickly, gradually, I guess would be a better term, from about 3 or 4 states to 24. We're operating with carriers that most of our competitors don't have, depending on what state we're in, and we've got some unique opportunities. I'm having a lot of fun. This is the greatest business in the whole world, and we've got a new opportunity coming out that we're going to be able to help many agents be able to get direct access to personal commercial lines products without ever having to fill out an Accord app, and they'll be able to do it within their office. We've got a couple of job openings right now for new positions, and the excitement of this industry is just unending. I get up now every morning at 4 o'clock. I can't get enough of this. I'm having fun.
Yeah, that's great. Well, there's a bunch of stuff in there. So as someone who was tasked with breaking the chain in my own family, I can understand and respect your battle, and I'm very happy and for you for having done that, because I understand and have seen firsthand what that looks like. So that's great, and I'm very I appreciate you sharing that, because I think a lot of people struggle with that, and I think to see someone come out the other side of it gives hope to everybody. So
yeah, I just read a great book about it too. My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell's book. For anybody who's a business person, which I think most of the people listening to this are, and struggle, that was a fantastic tool for me.
Yeah. Well, we'll have that linked up in the show notes. So I think what I like is what I like about Chenango and what you're doing, and is that it probably would have been easy to coast to a certain extent, but you didn't do that, in our and though I know you can't mention the exact names of the carriers, the opportunities that you have coming out in personal lines specifically are really exciting stuff.
I could be sitting in my front lawn lapping up the waves right now if I wanted to be, but I'm very excited about the opportunities that we are bringing to the table. I mean, like right now, I got a call yesterday from, and I can't tell their name yet, like Ryan said, but one of the biggest AM Best A+ rated national carriers that you don't normally find for personal lines in the independent agency system is going to be available for personal lines. We're talking home, auto, umbrella, dwelling, toys, through Chenango Brokers in 9 states, as recently, or as soon as today. Another one of our major carriers who does not want their name tied to this has asked us for package business through the end of October, and they're paying $50 per personal lines policy. So if you write a home car package, you get 50 for the house, 50 for the car, and another 50 because I'm a nice guy. Maybe you sold a package and did the right thing. So that's going on to the end of October. And with that particular company, we can get agents the ability to rate and upload the policies right in their office. We have other carrier relationships where we're actually going to be able to offer the online rating and binding. Some are already in place for commercial lines. Other opportunities are in the works. The other thing we just did, this company is a small company, and it's a New York company. We have an admitted carrier in New York called Weatherstocking. They're AM Best rated A-, and they are partnering with us in Long Island, being the counties of Nassau and Suffolk in New York, for a new admitted AM Best A- rated homeowners product. Should be available in September, and they will write homeowners right up to the water. They will do a windstorm deductible on a sliding basis from 0% to 5%. They'll write a replacement cost or an ACV homeowners, any limit that the insured chooses. I've done business with the company since 1991 in many different ways. We have a tremendous relationship with them, and we think that they're going to be a very, very good alternative for agents doing business in Nassau and Suffolk County. We've also just taken on another national carrier, new enough that I'm not sure if I'm supposed to use their names yet, but let's put it this way. They're a sister to the Lizard. And we are writing workers' comp, commercial auto, BOPs, commercial packages, homeowners in 23 states with them. Very excited to grow. And the other thing that many agents are really faced with right now is the loss of commercial auto markets. In addition to AmTrust over the last year non-renewing their book, we've all got a partner that, their rates get progressively higher. We've got other carriers. MetLife has just announced that their entire commercial lines book is getting non-renewed beginning in October. So those non-renewal notices are actually starting to come out now over the summer, depending on the state you're in. So there's a lot of commercial auto that's got to be replaced. We've got two national carriers that want all the commercial auto they can get. I've actually got some regional carriers depending on the state, and depending on the state and the carrier, I've got some that don't credit score. So we're here. We've got great products. We love helping agents help their customers, and we've got unique things that other wholesalers don't have.
Yeah, the commercial auto is what brought me to reach out to you guys, but just all the opportunities. I mean, for anyone listening to this that doesn't understand, New York is an odd state. If you're where I am up in Albany all the way to Buffalo, you basically you're writing like it's the Midwest. It's mid,
right.
It's like a middle of the country risk. There's no earthquakes. There's rarely a tornado. There's no hurricanes.
That's a really good point, Ryan.
Yeah.
If you look at, if you go to our website at ChenangoBrokers.com, that's ChenangoBrokers.com. On the homepage, there's a map. And each state that we're licensed in is in green. We're actually releasing a new website within the next week or two, so there's some updates that are coming on there. But anyway, any state that we're in is in green. If you click on any state except New York, it'll bring up a PDF and it will tell you all the products that we offer in that particular state. In New York, you'll notice that there are two dots on the map. And to say what Ryan was just saying, with upstate New York being like the Midwest, he's absolutely correct that it is. And the markets that play in upstate New York, sometimes because of where the carriers are allowed to write business, some carriers can't write in the 5 boroughs. But you'll find that the markets that are available upstate versus what's available downstate can be completely different.
Yeah. And the way they write the policies, I mean, you look at a good example is Hanover. They have upstate risks and then down, and they delineate the two, basically Westchester County line south is downstate risks. And
right. And some of that is, probably reinsurance and coastal and that kind of thing. But you're right. But the risks are much different.
Yeah.
In the two territories.
Well, you go from buildings potentially built in the 1700s in upstate New York to brand new skyscrapers and, the densest population to coastal and
that's something that's important that Chenango brings to the table with the unique carriers that we have in New York. Most of the other wholesalers don't do business with the cooperative insurance companies that we have in New York. And we actually are partnered with a few of them. And these companies can't go into the 5 boroughs of New York. They're not redlining. They're just not licensed to do it. But they can write everywhere from Westchester County all the way up to Niagara Falls. And some of them, depending, I believe, on their charter, can go into Long Island's Nassau and Suffolk counties. So they're unique companies. They'll write vacant property. They'll write the older homeowners. They'll write rental properties. They do a lot of things that the stock companies or even the large regional type mutual companies don't want any part of, and they do a really good job of it.
So the last, I want to be respectful of your time, and the last thing I'd really like to, or at least the last thing for now, that I'd like to kind of have you talk about is kind of the pitch for using a wholesaler. Because one of the things that I hear out on the agent circle all the time, and it's real, that I'm not saying this in a negative way, is it's just tough to find markets. And I think a lot of people get lost in direct appointments. And look, there are advantages to direct appointments, but there's also disadvantages. And I'm for someone who may be struggling, or someone who may feel like they don't have access, or they're limited by the fact that they just are struggling to get in front of markets, like maybe just hit them with the pitch for working with a wholesaler, and
Sure.
even Chenango in general.
There's more than meets the eye, Ryan. The obvious reason is that the wholesaler can bring you markets that you don't have access to through your normal agency relationships. If you have a direct appointment with XYZ Mutual, great. And we know you're going to feed most of your business to your primary carriers, and we want you to. We want you to get a nice contingency check. But they don't fit everything that you're going to write. And the other thing you need to understand is different kinds of wholesalers. A lot of people assume that the wholesale marketplace is E&S. And while we're licensed to write E&S in a couple of states, and we actually use a separate little agency we own to do that, our focus is standard and preferred admitted products in both primarily commercial, but some small, also personal lines. So we're not an E&S marketplace. So an agent can come to us without having to pay some astronomical sign-up fee. He doesn't have to pay us, I guess some of these other wholesalers charge agencies $200 or $300 a month. I've heard, I don't know. And we don't charge that. And the agent owns his business. He needs to have, and a license, et cetera, and a brokerage agreement with us. But then he has access to our markets that he doesn't have, and then he can just continue feeding his own markets with things that work well. Now, we were just talking about commercial auto. One of the reasons that it's so tough to place right now is it's volatile from a loss standpoint or loss ratio standpoint. Carriers are losing money. That's why they're getting off it. So you're transferring that to my loss ratio as opposed to your own, and still making a relatively generous portion of the commission. So it can help your agency a couple of ways that way. Another way, in certain states, and I am not advocating that you do this with my or any other products, but if you're an agent who charges fee revenue and you're looking for fee revenue, in certain states you're not allowed to charge a broker fee when you're using your agency license, but if you're brokering the business to a wholesaler, you can charge a fee for procuring or using your professional services to procure the policy. If you have to follow the laws in the given state, the customer usually has to sign an acknowledgement, et cetera, but that's another way that you have access to it. But really, we actually have agencies, rather large commercial agencies, who will place business with us because we can actually get the job done for them faster than their own agency can get it done in their centralized commercial lines office. I can think of three agencies right off the top of my head that we are doing that actively with on a regular basis.
Yeah. I also think, I think your idea, and this has actually crossed my mind around commercial auto. I mean, I know commercial auto in New York is a disaster, and some of the surrounding states, and it's just, like you said, it's volatile. And if you're trying to build a good, solid book of business with a good loss ratio with a carrier, you don't want a ton of commercial auto with them.
Well, and that's just it. I get calls every day. John, can you write NEMT? John, can you write Amazon? Well, I got kind of some good news. NEMT, no, sorry, not happening. You might have to cart me off in one if we did that. But Amazon, I will say that I'm aware that one of my preferred carriers is working on a product. But I will also say that I currently have a product to write the workers' comp for Amazon drivers anywhere in the country. So, somebody needs that, that's available. But I'm aware that one of my carriers is developing a product now for the Amazon trucks, and hopefully later this year that comes to fruition, but I can't talk any more than that about it.
What about when the big blimps start dropping drones with our packages in it? Do you have, you got a market for those things?
Come to my retirement party on that. I have no markets for drones. I know there's some specialty markets out there that do them. I had a bad experience with a drone recently because of everybody moving out of New York City and trying to get into upstate New York. I got my house on the market. And the drone was there the other day and did all the filming. And 3 or 4 days later, I was in my backyard at the pool with less clothing on than I probably should have. And I had a memory of that drone, and I'll never do it again.
Hey, if they want to look, let them look, right? I mean, it's a new world out there.
That's right. Maybe I won't be single forever,
Hey, John, this has been tremendous. I appreciate your time, man. I'm looking forward to us building our relationship, or Rogue and Chenango, and then you and I personally. And I just appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and sharing your experience and your thoughts, man.
I was absolutely thrilled to come on. If anybody has questions, either for me or for a lot of people know our agency relations director, Jamie Depot. He's been around the insurance water cooler for 40-some years, most recently at New York's Big I. Shoot us a text, 607-246-7277, or I can take a quick email, jmason@chenangobrokers.com. As always, we want your business. Pick up the phone, give us a call, 1-800-403-3738, or just shoot us an application. We're more than happy to do quotes for agents prior to you signing up with us. If you want to kind of take us for a test drive, we'll do that. We will need to have you sign a broker agreement with us in order to find coverage. If you want to send us a quote, email address is quotes@chenangobrokers.com. That's quotes at CHENANGOBROKERS.com. Thank you, Ryan. I can't thank you enough. I've enjoyed also getting to know you over the last few weeks since we've been talking. Look forward to doing more business with you. And like you said, I'd heard of you for a long, long time, and then Jamie was talking about you. And so finally, we've established this relationship over the phone, and when we're all allowed to go outside and play again, maybe we'll actually meet.
That sounds good to me, man. Hey, have a great day.
All right. You too, Ryan. Thanks.
Yes. Drinks and smoke a joint, Bubbles? Yes. few drinks and smoke a joint, Bubbles? Good.